Well, cool. Thank you for having both Ormond and I come to talk to the IEEE group. So we're here today to kind of talk a little bit about what we do, a little bit about some professional development in this, virtual age that we're all having to deal with right now. And then the last third of it is just a bit about what we do, kind of the hiring that we're looking at right now, what are the opportunities available, and how you can apply if this is a place that you're interested in working at in the future. So first, we'll start off with just a little bit about each of us, Armand and I. So I graduated from the U of A back in 2019. So I interned at Burns & McDonnell after my junior year, and then signed on full-time after my internship summer. And then I started about a month after I graduated. So I've been working full-time for about a year and a half now. So I'm in our transmission and distribution global practice or division in Kansas City. And kind of the work that I do is mainly substation design with an emphasis on the networking and communication systems for all of the electronics and equipment within the substation. And we'll have time at the end to talk about questions if you have any more specifics on what either Armand and I do.
Hey guys, my name is Armand Ahmed. I graduated from the U of A in 2018. I also work in the Kansas City office in the transmission and distribution group. And what I do is more focused on the protective relaying and controls of the substation. You can move on, and we can circle back around, and Brooks and I can talk more in depth about what we do if you guys are interested.
So we wanted to include some photos about what we do. Fortunately, a lot of the photos I have of exactly what I do are all very client specific and photos I've taken on site, so I can't necessarily just include slides and slides all of like what I actually do. But both of the work, the work that Armand and I do all happens within these substations. And the top left photo is actually a photo I took of a substation I was at about this time last year, just so you can get an idea of like what I talk about or what I mean when I say substation. And then I kind of handle the brains of the substation, kind of like the electronics. So this is a generic server room photo where it's approved for external use, but basically we just kind of have racks and racks of equipment that have all of the brains of the substation, and I help kind of install systems that allow the utility to monitor what's going on. And then Armand, what's this thing?
That thing is a big circuit breaker that can cut off portions of the substation.
So yeah,
during a fault.
Your work is mainly on, this sort of protective equipment, physical equipment in the yard, and how do we control it?
Right.
And then I kind of handle all of how do we monitor the status of everything? So, and we can come back to this at the end if you have any more technical questions about what we do. So, Armand?
All right, so at Burns & McDonnell, we start every meeting with a safety moment. So today's safety moment is on cyber safety. So now we've, in this pandemic, gone a lot more virtual. So it's now more important than ever to keep your virtual assets safe. So whenever you're making a password, make sure it's a nice and strong password. Don't do like obvious things like your birthday and address. And in terms of like links and emails and clicking links on websites, don't click anything unfamiliar. yeah, just use some, be safe, err on the side of being safe when clicking on things that you're unfamiliar with.
Cool. Thank you, Armand. And then another thing that we've started this year, this summer, we started it, in addition to like the safety moments that we do at every sort of meeting, some of our larger department or division meetings, we've been doing something called an inclusion moment, just kind of talking about how can we make kind of the workplace, better for everyone. So we include one of these slides as well. And you can read through the list, but one that really stands out to me that I want to highlight is even if you're having any sort of in-person meeting these days, make sure you can offer a virtual link for people to join in. Since there are people that might have, pre-existing health conditions or, don't feel safe attending something. So whenever you're planning an event, make sure that there's an opportunity for, virtual attendees to participate as much as they can. So it looks like everything right now is virtual anyways, but maybe as we kind of move out of this, that's kind of just a good thing to keep in mind. So now we'll move into a little bit more of the meat of the presentation, just a little bit about networking in this virtual age, and then a little bit about Burns and Mac. So just kind of a few bullet points that we were provided to talk about, with virtual networking. I have a little bit of kind of expanding on each of them. So, networking goals, when you're making connections or you're building out your LinkedIn, or you're cleaning up social media, or you're building your resume, make sure you have a goal in mind with what you're trying to accomplish with that tool. So your LinkedIn might right now just be a collection of things that you've done, which is great. You want it to be something like that so employers or professionals can see what you've done. But if there's like a specific sort of employment opportunity or job or career that you're after, make sure that you're tailoring your LinkedIn or social media. Make sure you tailor your online presence to something that's going to help you reach your goals. So maybe you really want to get into circuit design or PCB design. Well, make sure that, if someone looks at your profile, they can get the idea. They're like, oh, this person is interested in something like this. They might be a good fit. Current connections. This is a big one as well with, companies maybe not hiring as much. Reach out to people that you do know that are employed in these kind of positions. Maybe you know someone at a company and you don't, see on their website that they're hiring, or you're not sure what they have going on. Well, reach out to someone that you do know, because maybe they have a better idea and they can kind of point you in the right direction. Social media, make sure you keep things up to date, especially LinkedIn. So that's kind of the big, professional one that you probably hear of all the time. But it goes on to more than just that. So make sure the presence that you've established on other social medias is something that you don't mind, an employer seeing in the future. So, keep stuff private or clean up the image that you have, because in a virtual world, you're going to miss out on these, the in-person stuff's not really happening. So what they see online is really all that they can get from you. And then the follow-up. So let's say you have a good conversation with the potential employer, or you had a good, networking opportunity, you connected with someone on LinkedIn. Follow up with them and just see how they're doing. Maybe ask them a question about the work that they're doing. Thank them for the time if you had a little bit of chat. Stuff like this, because there's lots of connections being made right now, and you got to find a way to stick out. So just sending something like a thank you afterwards can go a long way. And then finally, professional organizations. I know, IEEE, this is a great one. It's a collection of like-minded individuals that are all in a certain career field. So see what other options are out there. Maybe you can subscribe to like an email list from a professional organization, if you're really big into, electric cars or something, find like a society or something about that and stay in the know on what's going on. So signing up for something like, weekly email updates is kind of a great way to get your feet wet and kind of stay connected on what's going on in the professional world. So, are there any questions about anything I said on that slide? You can ask now, or we can come back to it at the end, but I figure I ask before we move on to some other stuff. Good deal. We'll move on. So next up, we'll have it's just some details about our company as a whole, and I'll let Armand take this one.
Yeah, so here's just some quick facts about Burns McDonnell. We've been growing a lot lately, and we've grown to 7,600 people plus. Employee ownership is a big part of the culture here, and we've been employee owned for over 30 years. We are in over 350 service areas, so we work on a diverse set of things here, and there's many options. We were founded in 1898, and we've got 55 offices worldwide, so lots of locations to choose from as well.
Yeah, and keyword on the worldwide part, that's a huge area of growth that we're seeing right now, specifically like within our department. We're seeing offices with the kind of the utility space popping up. I know in London, Puerto Rico, all over the world. So worldwide's a
right. And I forgot to mention, we've been consistently on the 100 best companies to work for how many years?
A lot, at least
a lot.
Digits or so. So yeah, I think last year after we they announced that like we were on that list again, they brought they brought a beer truck, and is that the top places to work day?
Yeah,
They had like a pretzel truck, and then like Boulevard Brewery, so that's like our local Kansas City brewery. They're just like handing out 6-packs to people, just for like celebrating. So it's you work a lot and they reward you for it. So it's cool, like whenever we get awards like this, that we kind of all celebrate together.
Yeah.
So now a little bit more about, what do we do? So you all have probably heard of us as kind of just like a consulting engineering. So we do a lot more than just that. So on the left, you can kind of see 6 different fields, and on the right, kind of broken up even more. But we're handling the architecture, so we have an architecture group. So we have people, designing the building, designing how the buildings are going to look. Commissioning, this is more about something's been installed. Well, we're there to help them get everything up online and running properly. Construction, so we have construction teams that can help manage construction. We can do the construction ourselves, like that. The engineering part, so that's kind of what Armand and I are familiar with. Operations and maintenance. So let's say a client has a power plant or something that's running already, and they need help, renovating it or doing whatever they want to it. Well, we can provide help with that. We can help them figure out what they need to fix and help guide them through that. And then program management. So this is kind of a cool thing. It's if a client comes to us and they have money that they need to spend, well, we can help them figure out what to spend it on. We can develop plans for them, and these aren't just 1-year plans. These are, over the next 5 years, how can we spend dollar amounts with lots of zeros in them? So we sit down with them and figure out how can we make your money go as far as possible. And you can kind of see over here, just it goes crazy, like as all that we're doing. So you can kind of see just how broad the services that we provide go further than just engineering that you might be aware of.
And then from those services, with those services, we serve many different industries. So Brooks and I are in transmission and distribution, you can see there on the left, but there's many more divisions, or we call them global practices, that are a part of Burns McDonnell. And an important thing to note here is we're all electricals here. Every one of these different divisions needs electrical engineering, except for maybe environmental services. I'm not sure if they need electrical engineers, but basically every other division needs electrical engineers to do all the diverse services and all the diverse industries.
So yeah, electrical engineering is a great choice to stick out because you really can go anywhere and do anything. You know, you can do utility work like Armand and I do, or you could do wiring for a factory, or PLC programming, or renewable energy, different buildings. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, I know like all the friends that I made, like most of them are all electrical. So we hire a ton of electricals at Burns and Mac. So especially transmission and distribution, it's mainly just civils and electricals. We do all the design, and we have our civils tell us how it can fit in places, build the foundations and such. So yeah, that is a little bit about the industries, and then kind of more about the projects that we work on. It's kind of like a visualization of the last slide. And you can kind of see, you know, how many facets of life do we interact with. So Armand and I kind of handle the, there's a substation around here somewhere. There's a power plant. I've done work at a power plant. Substation over here, transmission lines, all that stuff. So like just look at all these and like think, you know, electrical can fit in most of these. So
Yeah.
another reason why being electrical is awesome. So
Critical infrastructure
yeah,
is mainly is an area we serve very heavily.
so that is a little bit about more about the projects and such that we work on. And then, you know, we mentioned the 55 plus locations worldwide. So here you can see really just how, you know, far we are around the world and across the United States. Our headquarters is here in Kansas City. So I think we're, I don't know, 2,000 or so.
Yeah, about 2,000-ish.
I'd say like 20%, yeah, about 20% of all of Burns Mac is here in Kansas City. But we have, you know, major offices all over. You know, regional offices are popping up like crazy. And this is important because you need to be where the work's at. So you can only, you know, do a project so much if it's 1,000 miles away. So this is why we have, you know, regional offices sprouting up like crazy. Because if there's a need for our, you know, services in an area, well, then we're going to go there and we're going to establish a presence there and build relationships. So yeah, you can start somewhere and then move around the world. So you can see Mumbai, we have a Burns and Mac India in Mumbai, and the Birmingham one, that's the UK office. That's fairly new, I think within the last year or so. And now we're kind of moving down into the South America area. So it's crazy just to see, you know, the wins that we're getting in different countries around the world. So now on to some important stuff for you all. We wanted to talk a little bit about, you know, what are we looking for and what's the job outlook kind of look like right now in this COVID world that we're dealing with. And we kind of had a little bit of a slowdown of looking for work. I think I don't know what all was there back when the career fair took place in September. But over the last few weeks, they've been starting to add on some entry-level positions onto our careers portal. So I've put the link down here, burnsmcd.com/careers. It won't take you exactly to this page, but you'll be able to find your way and search around. And I just searched like entry electrical, and I found a couple positions that we're looking for currently. But the one thing that I want to stress is that just if you're interested, bookmark that website and just check all the time, because our outlook on how things are going to look in a few months, it's changing rapidly. So things have started to look good, and we feel like we're in a good position. So they've started to put on some of these entry-level positions. So just keep checking, keep looking, and something will pop up eventually, hopefully. So the two I saw right now, and I did a search this afternoon, was electrical engineer in our networks integration and automation division. So that's what I'm in, called NIA. And this is the projects that we kind of do are mainly networks and communication systems for electric utility companies. So, or SCADA, if you've heard of that acronym, RTU work, that's the kind of stuff that we do in my department. That's here in the Kansas City office. And then the other one, Armand, do you know much about that? That's like E98 stuff.
Yeah,
Technical advisory.
Yeah, so utility consulting is more so on like helping utilities with planning instead of like actual engineering of specific sites.
So yeah, our utility consulting group, they're following the trends and seeing what's going on in the utility world. Where do we see the market headed? What's the technology look like? And they work with us and our clients to kind of help them plan out what they do. So as we're setting up projects, the utility consultant is helpful, and they can provide input on recommendations to our clients on how they should proceed to best benefit their mission. So,
yeah.
And as for intern positions right now, I don't believe that there are any posted for next summer. The plan is to have an intern program next summer. We did have one this past summer. So all of our interns worked remotely this past summer. We shipped them the equipment that they needed to perform their job, and they had the full experience this summer. So that was great that even with everything going on, we were still able to provide that intern program. So keep monitoring, because if we were able to do it last summer, then I'm hopeful that we're going to be able to do the same thing. If not, hopefully in person, we'll see next summer. So just keep following this link, keep checking on it, and hopefully stuff will go up there in the near future. So that's the last slide that we have for everyone. So we'd love to open it up for any sort of questions, whether it be about the company, what we do, hiring stuff, anything. So, yeah.
I had a question regarding locations. So, you mentioned Kansas City is your headquarters. And then you mentioned that there are a lot of other regional offices. Is there any other of these locations, is there any kind of major, not your headquarters, but major offices?
Yeah. So Chicago is a pretty big office. Houston is very large. They serve a lot of the oil and gas clients that we have out of Houston. And Dallas is sizable, but
our Denver one's pretty good size
Yeah.
for mine. You'll find that a lot of these regional offices are kind of hubs for particular groups for the work in that area. So like Armand said, our Houston office might be our second biggest behind like our headquarters. And they do a lot of like the oil and gas work because you
Yeah.
want to be down in this area. So like my department, like the networking group, we have teams in Denver, St. Louis, Chicago, Orlando soon, Phoenix, Southern California, Connecticut, Detroit, Chattanooga, Atlanta. So, but yeah, the big ones I think are Houston, Chicago.
Atlanta's pretty big too.
Atlanta's a good size one too. Yeah.
So there's a distinction actually that we make between regional offices and branch offices. So like when an office becomes large enough, like the large offices are known as regional offices, and then kind of like a hub and spoke model, the branch offices are kind of offshoots of the regional office. So for example, the Detroit office is actually a branch office of the Chicago office.
So a lot of people will start in Kansas City since that's kind of the hub of a lot. But then, you know, if you have an interest, you know, like in our department, I think we have postings for, you know, relocations to Orlando right now, some in St. Louis. So you can start somewhere and then kind of make it known that you want to move and try out somewhere else. And with all these options, it can happen pretty easily from what I've seen. So hopefully we answered that in our mumbling for minutes here.
Yes, thank you.
And I think on like the hiring website, they say the location on there. I just searched like 2 keywords here. So this is what pops up when I search entry and electrical. And you can see, I think if you click on them, it tells you kind of, you know, other locations as well. Some are general postings and some are location specific. So you can keep that in mind when you're looking around on the careers site.
The vast majority of our new hires begin in Kansas City generally, but there's also, you can start anywhere. Just depends on what the need is.
If anybody else has any questions, you can just hop off mute and just ask them or put it in the chat.
Yeah. Could you go back to the industries page?
This one?
Yeah. What is 1898 and Company?
Oh, okay, yeah. So that's yeah, they're a little different than the other ones. So 1898 and Co. actually last year was kind of rebranded from a prior global practice that used to be known as Business Technology Solutions, BTS. And they rebranded to kind of diversify their services and to position themselves in a more diverse market. But that's the global practice that does a lot of the conceptual engineering and studies for clients. So from a utility perspective, that's where the utility consulting lives. Even though they're working with like clients in the transmission and distribution area, since that's more of the conceptual planning side of things, like doing load studies or doing load projections over time on the grid, they do it out of that global practice. they also, in general, help businesses and clients optimize whatever they need to have optimized.
So like we'll find a lot of like kind of technical or software experts in that 1898 and Co group. So I know a program we use a lot is ArcGIS, which is just geographical information system. It's like a giant map that you can put data over. You can draw shapes, give everything data, and we have GIS specialists that come out of the 1898 and Co group. But yeah, like Armand said, they kind of help clients figure out and project what their futures are going to look like. So, and those are engineers that do those positions. So they might not be calculating what size wire we need. It's a lot more conceptual, but it's still critical work to keeping our clients like up to date with modern technology and helping them figure out how they're going to grow.
Right. They do a lot of feasibility studies as well.
Good question.
So I had another question. How easy is it to move between these different, like business groups, like once you're within the company?
I'd actually say right now it's pretty easy. And Armand, you can correct me.
Yeah, and it really it depends, just like how the locations goes, it depends on what work is available, like what staffing is like in those other divisions, what your past experience is like, where do you sit in your position, like would you be a good fit for doing stuff like that? And it might be hard to get in at a certain time, but then if you really want to move to another global practice and the timing's right and your experience is right, you should be able to move. I've known several people to move between different global practices, and a lot of times that's just because people want to try something new and branch out and do different industries.
It's a lot of like just going where the work is. So,
right.
Back in March and April and May, when kind of the oil market had a pretty major downturn for a bit, our oil and gas people were kind of struggling looking for work. That was a big problem. And we were able to kind of transplant a lot of them and move them over to other global practices and help do projects in different divisions. So maybe like the energy group won a big project and you're super interested in, you make it known to your manager. They can kind of transfer you around. So right. You just kind of have to make it known what you want. So
right. And one of our executives actually said that everyone is a free agent. So if you want to move, if you really want to move, if you really believe that your skills and your knowledge will be better utilized somewhere else, then it's absolutely encouraged that you move into a different department or global practice.
Yeah, the free agent is an excellent way to describe it. You just sign like 3-month contracts and do your projects, and when a project kind of dies down, you just see where your future takes you next. So
yeah,
great question.
Hey, Brooks, do you want to go back to that slide with the pictures on it, where we kind of left it a little open-ended with what we do? So Brooks was saying that he does like the brains of the substation, which is true, like the networking and networking, communication, SCADA controls could be considered the brain of a substation. And what his equipment, his routers, his network switches, RTUs are talking to are more of the equipment that I deal with, which are protective relays. And a lot of those protective relays are gathering all of the information on the various load carrying pieces of the substation, right? The bus, the lines, voltage and current data, fault data, or picking up faults. And the networking and SCADA components allow that to be communicated to a central command location or to other substations, so that substation can make decision on what to do.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
great. So, like
Brooks and I
more,
actually work on the same, we work with the
Yeah.
same utility.
we work for the same client. We just do a little
We're in
bit of
different
different work
departments.
at each site. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So my
like,
department
I'm-
is, or go ahead, Brooks.
oh, I was just gonna say, like, kind of more specific. What I'm doing is, we have a couple hundred substations that we're installing new network equipment and new routers and switches, and we're connecting all of them via fiber optic cable. So we're putting hundreds of miles of fiber optic cables between substations to allow all the routers to talk to each other. So Armand's device is doing all the controlling, all the opening and closing and protecting. And then when his equipment is doing his thing, ours is telling the central command, like, hey, Armand's equipment is doing something right now. So,
Yeah.
and because what happens now is that, our client used to pay AT&T to handle their network. And now they're like, well, we want to have our own network, because if a outage occurs, they have to call AT&T and say, can you come and please fix this for us? Well, AT&T has their own set of problems that they have to deal with. They might not be a priority, but now they have their own network, so they run it all. They fix it on their schedule so they can prioritize things. So it kind of gives them freedom. So not stuff you learn in school. You just gotta be willing to learn. So
Yep.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I've got one for you. Brooks, I know you said that you interned at Burns and Mac and Armand. I kind of assumed that you did the same thing.
I actually didn't.
You did not.
So I interned at a utility company. I interned at Entergy
Right.
in Arkansas, but yeah, I missed out on the intern opportunity.
yeah,
The Burns and McDonnell desk at the career fairs they were always way too long for me. So I did not intern. But I did look at the careers page though. That is literally what I did.
So really my question is, what advice would y'all have to like sell yourself to a company when I know myself and I'm sure a lot of other people also kind of missed out on the intern opportunities this past summer?
that's a really great question. I think kind of the biggest thing that I found in my year and a half of working here is just like showing your flexibility and willingness to kind of handle new challenges. So I think you're at a point now, like, you all are handling something that's never happened before that anyone's had to deal with. So, being able to talk about how you've handled these challenges and how you've continued to absorb the material and learn the material in this world shows that you're able to take on challenges that you haven't been prepared for. So, when I started, I don't know, I learned a lot in school, and the stuff you're learning in your classes is very important stuff. But, I started and I didn't really know anything about what I'm doing now. So every day it's just kind of, learning and adapting and trying to figure out what's going on. I feel like you're doing that every single day, handling your classwork. So
Yeah.
really just talk about how, you've been able to continue to learn and solve these problems that keep getting thrown at you. And maybe kind of talk about how you've handled this world and stayed involved. I don't know, Armand, you got any?
Yeah. So yeah, just whenever you're talking to someone about careers or jobs, communicate those challenges and own them. But another thing that I feel like really helps, and I know at this point in I mean really all of our lives, it's kind of it's hard to, you might not know exactly what you want to do, and you don't want to necessarily like lock yourself into a certain type of industry, but I will say that it kind of making somewhat of a decision, at least an initial decision of what type of industry you want to really focus your efforts into. Like, who do you want to sell yourself to the most? And you might have a few different options, but like if you do want to go into the electric power industry, kind of like Brooks and I, it definitely does help to communicate like what what industry you are willing to try. You don't necessarily have to say like for example, you don't have to say I want to work in substation design for 30 years of my career or the rest of my career. But you can say if you come to a decision of like that's something that you want to try out, that you want to see what it's like, communicate that you want to go into that industry, you want to see what it's like, you want to learn about it, you want to challenge yourself with that specific industry. And I think that helps out, because then whoever you're communicating to, like, they know what you want and they know what you're willing to work for and to challenge yourself with.
And I think, adding on to that, if you kind of come in any sort of leads, follow up with them, stay on top of them, because if you would have asked, a month ago, if we did this presentation a month ago, we would not have been able to tell you, we're looking for a few different positions right now. We're starting to hire, because we had no idea. So it's changing and it's changing and it's changing. And the opportunities that you find, not just with our company, with wherever you look, opportunities that you see online now, I guarantee you're going to be much different than kind of what you see in 3 months. So I'd say it probably might be hard if you're getting into your second semester senior year and it's like, I'm supposed to have a job right now. Like, what's going on? Well, just know that the things are changing month by month, week by week, in all these companies that you're looking to hire. So no one can predict the future, certainly not right now. So just continue to check online and see what's there. If you had a conversation with someone, email them, reach out and be like, hey, I'm wanted to follow up and just see how things are going right now. This is an incredible challenge that I'm glad I didn't have to deal with. So you all are in interesting positions. So hopefully things kind of get figured out, because electrons are not going anywhere right now. So just know that we're losing a lot right now, but the future of electrical engineers are not going anywhere right now. So hopefully there is some good information in that as well. So.
Yeah, I got some good stuff out of that. Thank you.
I mean, like, how are labs handled, like, right now? Just, like, as a junior, I can't imagine being a junior right now. So, because I feel like every day I was just going to another lab for a couple hours, and luckily it was hands-on for us, so.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I think they give everyone like a lab kit. Luckily, I'm in my senior year, and so I'm like kind of in the same boat as you in terms of like, wow, I have like no idea how you guys do that. But yeah, I think they give everyone a lab kit and you work on it from home, which sounds awful.
I mean, the amount of hours I spent in the lounge junior year was almost too much. It worked out, but yeah. This is where you have interesting and unique challenges for all of you to talk about whenever. Sorry, Brandon, I just cut you off there. I apologize. These are the unique challenges that you need to bring up. You know, when you have someone's ear, like HR's person's ear, how are you tackling and handling these incredibly unique challenges? So.
Yeah, as I was going to say a second ago, it was like I'm a junior right now, and how we're doing the labs is, as John was saying, they're giving us these kits, and we have to join the lab session on Blackboard, and most of them are 3 hours long, and then electromagnetics is the only class or lab that we have in person, and it's every other week, and you have to go for an hour and a half, and you have face shields and the mask and a bunch of other stuff that you have to wear. But I do have a question regarding your internships. You said that last year you guys had a lot of internships, but this year you guys are decreasing the amount that you guys are doing. How many different internship opportunities due to COVID are not going to be presented this year due to the circumstances than they were last year?
So let me, I don't think I made it very clear based on how that question was asked. So right now they're still looking at the outlook for how it's going to happen last year. So in the past, a lot of the intern stuff and hiring process has been done in the fall. So early to late fall is kind of when that happened. So everyone was pretty much hired last year before the world ended. So we had to adapt quite a bit. You know, the plan is to still do an internship program for this summer. I can't speak to numbers since my day job is to do engineering work, and I'm not a part of HR and don't want to give out false information. But you know, we have interns in offices all across the country in every single global practice. So maybe, you know, looking for an internship with our oil group, that might not be there. But I can tell you that like our utility work that Armand and I do, like that's not slowing down at all. So and the intern program is critical to us as well. So having a steady flow of new talent is important. So I know that they're doing everything possible to make sure we can have as robust of a program as possible. And they just don't have anything online for you to apply for that yet. But it will come at some point. So
Yeah, and Brooks, since you're an intern, like when, like, well,
yeah,
under normal circumstances, like without, you know, COVID and schedule changes and stuff, like when were you looking up like online for those
so
positions? Like what's
yeah,
the,
so
kind of
I
like the
applied for
cycle?
my internship at the beginning of September and had my offer right around when the career fair happened my junior year. So I took care of it pretty early. And that's just not that's not very helpful for you all right now. What I would say though is you might not see opportunities out there right now, but make sure that you have all of your, resumes in place, some cover letters and such in place. So then when you do find them, you can jump on them quickly. Bookmark the career pages for the companies that you're interested in. Or just if you have any sort of contacts, that's where it's important to start reaching out. You might have to put a little bit more effort into this than someone a couple of years ago. So that's just kind of how things work right now. And it's not entirely fair for you all having to deal with this. But the work isn't going anywhere. It's just harder to come by at this instance since the future is hard to predict.
Awesome. Well, so does anybody have any last questions before we wrap up the session? Awesome. All right. Well, Brooks, Armand, thank you guys so much for putting this on. I know that I personally learned a ton, and I thought it was really intriguing. So thank you guys.
Of course.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
Glad to help, and go Hogs.
Go Hogs.
3-1. 3-1.
All right.
All right.
You guys have a good
Have a good
afternoon.
evening.
Awesome. Thank you. Y'all have a good night.
Thanks, guys.